Good morning. Hi. I'm Steve. Are we all awake? Yeah. So I'm Steve. Hi, Steve. I knew you were. Okay. I wrote this song for A Walk for Life. I was just so amazed by all it's one of those overnight walks, right? For raising funds to help with cancer research and support and things. And I was just so moved by how everybody connected to do something powerful. And the visual symbolism of it was they have, what are those called, where you have the little sand in the bag and the tea light in it? Yeah, they had those all, yeah. Luminaria, yeah. They had those all around this path. The path was about a mile long. It's a lot of cool candles. It was very sweet. There are times we feel downhearted. We walk alone. Still we search for any sign that we might find our pathway home. Now there's something oh so lovely, like a star in a crystal night, when I'm reminded deepest darkness can be lit with just one candle's light. There's a circle we're a part of, hand in hand it glows with love. In this circle there's strength in numbers, as we rise to lift each other up. With the help of sisters and brothers and some friends I have yet to know, they give me strength to face the future. They lift me up so I'm never alone. And there's a circle we're a part of, hand in hand it glows with love. In this circle there's strength in numbers, as we rise to lift each other up. Every breath, every step, every heartbeat in my chest. There's a circle we're a part of, as we rise to lift each other up. Come the morning, bright and cleansing, it's gonna warm from the outside in, but nothing shines so brightly as this light that shines from within. There's a circle we're a part of, hand in hand it glows with love. In this circle there's strength in numbers, as we rise to lift each other up. As we rise to lift each other up. We rise with love. We rise with love.
That's the whole thing, unless this comes on. The light is on. Testing. Really? It's just I am able to project. Hello? Hello? Yeah, but what are you going to sing with?
You might have to share.
What an interesting concept. So I prepared the slides. I prepared actually 5 slides, and then I apparently forgot to press send. I'll tell you, I don't know how many of you get the Seattle Times, but there's on the other side of the comics page, which is the page I try to read first, there's puzzles, and I like to do the puzzles, or alternatively, I like to fold the paper so the puzzles are up and accumulate a pile of them that I haven't done. And there's a horoscope, which from time to time I look at. It ranks the day, in numbers. 9 is great, 1 is terrible. Today mine was a 6, and it basically said, stay home. The slides were there. So I created havoc, and Nadine and Julie were kind enough to help figure out how to get 4 of the 5 slides, mainly because the only file I could find was an older version which didn't have the 5th. So you're going to have to imagine that one. The interesting thing about this season is that you probably notice wherever you are, right after Thanksgiving, the Hanukkah music starts. Really, you get really tired of it. You walk into like a department store, you walk into a bookstore, wherever you walk, Hanukkah music. So we thought we'd celebrate Christmas as kind of a balance to all that Hanukkah stuff. You know what's unique about Hanukkah? It's the only holiday that nobody knows how to spell. I actually know how to spell it. Pardon me? No, there's two actual okay ways and a whole bunch of not okay ways. Sometimes there's 2 N's, sometimes there's 2 K's, sometimes there's a CH in front, sometimes there's just an H in front. It's the Jewish holiday with more ways to spell than any other holiday. It makes a certain uniqueness. The correct way, if you want to take, is anybody taking notes? No. Is either with a CH or an H, A-N, 1 N, U-K-K, double K, A-H. And that's a transliteration from the Hebrew. So if you might find yourself on Jeopardy someday, and you have that. Hanukkah is actually, until we came to America, it was a very minor holiday. Hanukkah was not a time of gift giving. It was a time of lighting candles. You'll never guess what led it to become a gift-giving holiday in America. Frankly, I don't think Christmas was that big of a commercial holiday in Europe. You know, we are excellent here. We can monetize anything. In fact, we're offering now a little charm with my initials and my Hanukkah means dedication, and it is a reflection of a military victory that happened around 165 before the Common Era. And I'm not going to go into deep parts of the history for the main reason that it is far more complicated than we usually tell people. Because not only was there a challenge of getting free from the Greek Seleucid oppressors, but there was also a terrible battle going on between those Jews who had been influenced by Hellenistic culture and those Jews who thought any Hellenistic influence needed to be weeded out. So if you look at the book of Maccabees, there are two books of Maccabees. The word Maccabee means hammer. And the family of Mattathias was the one who started the revolt when he witnessed the altar in the temple being defiled with the statue of Zeus. His son Judas wound up being the prime fighter, and Judas got the nickname Judas the Maccabee, Judas the Hammer. And because there was no family name Maccabee, but we refer to them as the Maccabees. Surprisingly, they won, and they cleansed the temple, and they started a festival of 8 days. The festival of 8 days was modeled after a fall Jewish holiday called Sukkot. That's the festival of booths. It's the harvest in the fall. And that's 8 days, so that's where Hanukkah was celebrated for 8 days. Until the 3rd century, when a miracle happened. It turned out that Hanukkah was really a popular holiday among the people, but a very unpopular holiday among the rabbis. Because in the 1st century, the family that actually was the Maccabee family, they were the Hasmonean priesthood family, was in charge of the temple and had become in league with Rome. And the rabbinical authorities hated them. So if you got a holiday that is celebrating the victory of the Hasmoneans, you're not supporting it. But there are so few victories of that kind in that time of Jewish history that the people didn't want to let go of it. I mean, it was a time of some pride and some self-respect. So the rabbis deciding, essentially the move from priesthood to rabbi that was happening in the 1st century was a movement from a priestly class leader to a scholar class leader, which is essentially the rabbinic tradition. In the 3rd century, the literature that's being developed is called the Talmud. After the Hebrew Bible comes a couple centuries of what became the Mishnah. The Mishnah, which means it's teaching by repetition, becomes the heart of the next 300 years discussion on the Mishnah, which is called the Talmud. And the Talmud has rabbis arguing with each other. We did it then, That's our way. You know, wherever there are two Jews, there are three opinions. And in a lot of ways, that's how tradition developed. You know, it was discussion, it was learning, it was arguing. So the tractate of the Talmud that's called Shabbat, it's talking about regulations and stories about the Sabbath. They're talking about Shabbat candles. And in the middle of a discussion of Shabbat candles, all of a sudden, out of the blue, comes a statement in Aramaic, my Hanukkah, which means, what's Hanukkah? Very Talmudic. There's one conversation going on, and all of a sudden it shifts. And you got to go, what just happened? And the answer is given. Hanukkah is a celebration of the 8 days, the 8-day miracle of light that occurred when the temple was reconsecrated after the victory over the Seleucid Greeks. And it says, at that time only one cruse of sanctified oil was found. And essentially that cruse would last the light one day. But the miracle was that that cruse lasted 8 days until more sanctified oil could be found. And we celebrate Hanukkah, celebrating the miracle of light. Now, I love that miracle. But the real reason I love that miracle is it was made up. I mean, right there, the miracle that was ascribed to the 2nd century before the Common Era first saw light in the 3rd century of the Common Era. Great. I have the radical notion that all of our spiritual literature was made up. I have a radical notion that God doesn't write books. I have a radical notion that God doesn't dictate books. I have a radical notion that people write books. You know, that there is a continuum of spiritual awakening, of spiritual awareness, which essentially is a continuum moving from exclusivity to inclusivity, from contraction to expansion, from particular to universal. And each of us at any moment are somewhere on that continuum, somewhere on that scale. And without calling one side good and one side bad, it's not like that. It's just that's how consciousness operates. Consciousness is either thickened and solidifying with a particular identity, with a particular thing, objectness, or it starts being less thick, more space, more connected, more interconnected, and our I, our sense of self, is what we experience either contracted or expanded, either separate or connected. And any decent spiritual tradition is designed to help us awaken to the fuller nature of our identity. Now that's an interesting talk, but now I forgot what I was saying to get into it. Was anybody listening? We do. Yes. So, here's what I think is the real miracle, because I think there was a miracle. I don't think the miracle was that a single cruse of oil burned for 8 days. I think the miracle was the transformation of a holiday celebrating a military victory into a holiday celebrating a miracle of light. Because I think ultimately light is a miracle. You know, the myth of creation with which the Hebrew Bible begins has light being the very first creation. I'll get that. It's for me. So if anybody else has a phone waiting to ring, you might want to, fix it so it doesn't ring. You did that, right?
I did that.
Who was it, by the way? Ah. Well, say hello for us. The very first creation. In the beginning there was a void, chaos, nothing. V'ruach Elohim rachefet, and the spirit of God hovers over the face of the deep. Vayomer Elohim, and God says, Yehi or, let light be. Vayehi or, so light was. But that's before the creation of the sun. That's before the creation of the moon. That's before the creation of the stars. So what was that light? While you ponder that, we'll have a few moments of silence, and that's the light of awareness. That's the light of consciousness. It's the light of the consciousness from which, in which, through which all creation unfolds. And only from that foundation, only with that energy if you think about it, there's nothing that you perceive that's not held in consciousness. So Hanukkah is a time of celebrating that light. Hanukkah is a time of celebrating that consciousness. The Shabbat candles you can use for light, because according to traditional observance, you don't turn on any other lights on the Sabbath. But you have the Shabbat candles that you have lit entering into Shabbat, and if they're still burning, you can use those. You can read by them, but Hanukkah candles you're not supposed to use like that. Which is to say, Hanukkah candles are a meditation. Hanukkah candles are an appreciation for light. I see. He went for coffee? Okay. This is a good time for this song. I won't ask. I want to light the candles. And Tova Adlin this year, with whom I've been mentoring, brought this song to me. It's this one that's on the board. And it's a great song. And Steve Mason, for whom I'm grateful as he, accompanies me this morning, learned in an interesting kind of synchronicity. Tomorrow I'm speaking at Unity of Whidbey. And a couple of weeks ago, well after that I'd scheduled Steve for this, they informed me that the singer this particular Sunday was Steve Mason. So what that is to say is this is practice. Oh, that.
Okay, you ready? I was thinking that Rabbi Ted and I met, I think it was like a dozen years ago, over in Redmond at a little church. I was booking the guest speakers. And I was telling Kathy, I would love to play music for him someday. That's what I was thinking that. Swedenborgian Church, yeah. That Emmanuel Swedenborg guy. Let's see. Yeah.
Hello? Oh. Now I could talk while you sing. Normally, Hanukkah candles are kindled at night, but we need the light here.
I'm gonna light this candle for the joy in our heart. I'm gonna light this candle for tomorrow's brand new start. I'm gonna light this candle for those who know of darkened days, that they may trust the light is on its way. I'm gonna light this light tonight. Yeah, I'm gonna light this light tonight. I'm gonna light this candle for those who feel alone. I'm gonna light this candle, they may find their way home. I'm gonna light this candle for those whose hearts are broken, so they may know God's heard their prayers they spoke. And gonna light this light tonight. Yeah, I'm gonna light this light tonight. Well, I'm gonna light this candle for turning our lives upside down. I'm gonna light this candle for finding stillness as the world turns round. I'm gonna light this candle for the children who are great believers, so they may know they are our greatest teachers. Gonna light this light tonight. Yeah, I'm gonna light this light tonight. I'm gonna light this candle for me. Yeah. I'm gonna light this candle, 'cause this is where I'm supposed to be. I'm gonna light this candle so we may walk our own true path, 'cause there ain't no use in looking back. I'm gonna light this light tonight. Yeah, I'm gonna light this light tonight. Let's do this. Yeah, I'm gonna light this light tonight. Yeah, I'm gonna light this light tonight. Yeah, I'm gonna light this light tonight. Yeah, I'm gonna light this light tonight.
I'd actually like to ask you to do it again, because now everybody knows all the words in the melody, so we could join you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I was thinking because everybody had been looking at it, they might have memorized it already. And so. Isn't this a pretty song? Gee, Merry Christmas. Oh. And Happy Hanukkah. Yeah. I'm gonna light this candle for the joy in our heart. I'm gonna light this candle for tomorrow's brand new start. I'm gonna light this candle for those who know of darkened days, so they may trust the light is on its way. I'm gonna light this light tonight. Yeah, 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 I'm gonna light this light tonight. I'm gonna light this candle for those who feel alone. I'm gonna light this candle so they may find their way home. I'm gonna light this candle for those whose hearts are broken, so they may know God's heard the prayers they spoke. And gonna light this light tonight. Yeah, 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 I'm gonna light this light tonight. I'm gonna light this candle for turning our lives upside down. I'm gonna light this candle for finding a stillness as the world turns round. I'm gonna light this candle so they believers, so they may know they are our greatest teachers. Gonna light this light tonight. Yeah, 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 I'm gonna light this light tonight. I'm gonna light this candle for me. I'm gonna light this candle 'cause this is where I'm supposed to be. Gonna light this candle so that they may walk our own true path. Looking back, I'm gonna light this light tonight. Yeah, 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 I'm gonna light this light tonight. Yeah, 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 I'm gonna light this light tonight. Yeah, 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 I'm gonna light this light tonight. Yeah, 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 I'm gonna light this light tonight.
So can everybody see the lights in the Chanukiah? We call it a menorah, but it's actually the actual menorah is 7 branches. So we could call it a Hanukkah menorah, but the Hebrew word for it is a Chanukiah. And I'd like you to decide which light of the actually, there's 7 candles, but no, there are 8 candles. Which of the lights is the best light? No, really. I mean, obviously, they're different lights. They're different flames, right? So which one is better? We'll take a vote. I'm actually asking that question with some seriousness. You know, because we get so confused. There's only one light. But because that light awakens within a particular structure, within a particular candle, within a particular wick, within a particular oil lamp, within a particular person, within a particular group, within a particular tradition, within a particular country, within a particular culture. it's hard for us to remember that it's the same light. It looks so different. And unless we remember that it's all the same light, we'll continue to do what we're doing now. We will ensure that there are children across the globe who are starving. We'll ensure that there are homeless. We'll ensure that there's support for hate. We'll ensure that some people think they're better than everybody else. We'll ensure that we live in a place where people experience themselves separate, not only from each other, but from the rest of life, from other animals, from trees, from flowers. The Christmas tree. You know, this one is decorated just as the Christmas tree in the manger was decorated. Christmas, it's the same light, but it's in such a different form and with such different words and with such different proclamations and with such a different shell of exclusivity that it's hard to recognize it's the same light. What if the Christmas tree is a way of helping us remember our connection to trees? What if we're starting to get to a place where we no longer want to cut down living trees? You know, I mean, but how do the symbols live in a life-giving way? Because I'm convinced that the power of symbols is always the life they give. Today's horoscope told me I'm a 6. In Jewish tradition, 6 is a very interesting number. One of the things is the Jewish star. Jewish star has 6 points, right? Because Jewish star is made up of 2 triangles. One triangle is facing upward, one triangle is facing downward, and they are interlinked to make them even. So the greatest open space is in the middle. It's a remarkable symbol. It occurs in the Hindu tradition with no connection to Judaism, but it occurs in the Hindu tradition as the sign of the heart chakra. Why? Because the bottom triangle represents energy moving up, and the top triangle represents energy moving down, and the heart is the place of balance. The heart is the place of balance. And that's 6. And for those of you who remember the class on Hebrew letters, the 6th letter of the Hebrew alphabet is called a Vav, and it's represented by just a straight line connecting top and bottom. And it's the letter of connection, and it is so fascinating because, I mean, on a spiritual level, it's the symbol of connection of heaven and earth. On a symbolic level, it's the simplest representation of a human being, because we are the beings who are meant to connect heaven and earth. We are meant to bring that clarity and bring that wisdom and bring that interconnectedness and live it into the planet. And the letter Vav is even more connective, because not only does it connect up and bottom, top and bottom, heaven and earth, but it connects to the next word. If you put a Vav in front of a word, it connects. It's translated as and that. So Vav not only connects up and down, but it connects past and present and future. It connects what came before to what follows. You're just dying to say something. No? No, you promised you wouldn't ask questions. I told him before we started that I did. I said, no questions. Because John has kind of interesting questions. I love you, man. Do you want to?
Yeah, the verticality implies a union, that it's a moment. A line has no dimension. And so in the verticality from here to there, we live only in the moment, connected from here to there.
Thank you. One of my basic beliefs is that spiritual wisdom is universal. And it's always a challenge to, okay, how does it awaken for you? How does it awaken in your tradition or in your non-tradition? Or how does it awaken in your life? Or how does it awaken in your consciousness? And when we find people with whom that strand awakens and connects, we start to remember possibility. And boy, oh boy, in the world in which we live today, we need to remember possibility. Like we need a miracle today. It's the same miracle. It's the miracle of consciousness. It's the miracle of light. And we need somehow to translate an environment of deep polarization, of deep disconnectedness, into an environment that celebrates a shared light, a shared illumination, a shared consciousness. So you have another song called Renew. Do you want to do that one or a different one? Okay.
I wrote this song about this time of the year. I wrote it during this time of the year and about this time of the year. So. Maybe it's the time of the year we celebrate these holidays and share a little cheer. Then we wrestle resolutions come and gone. Dream about some healing or imaginary dawns. There's a sense of new hope all around. Maybe peace, maybe somewhere in some war-torn town where the birds return to the trees and smoke no longer lingers in a brand new breeze. Well, let's celebrate and renew. I'll be your loving best friend while we review and maybe that is all we'll need to do. Let's celebrate and renew. Maybe it's the cycle of the moon, just stirring up the tide on a stormy afternoon, where our beaches stay so strong. We can take in that view as night comes on. Then we'll walk down by the beach and renew. Maybe catch an early star or the rising moon. I think that is all we'll need to do. Let's celebrate and renew. Renew. It'll just be me and you. Renew. And this day will do. This moment is a present. It'll only take a few. Let's walk by the beach and renew. Now this here is the time of our lives. Now we can thrive or simply survive. Oh, but never, never throw it all away. Instead, maybe hang on to each other. Oh, my friends, well, let's hang on tight and renew. We can glow from our souls in this perfect little room. And I think that is all we'll need to do. Just hang on to each other. Make one heart out of two. Let's hang on tight and renew. You can hang on to me. I'll hang on to you. Let's hang on tight and renew.
And I always wonder with things like that, how you knew how appropriate your songs are to this moment. Yeah. Last year, Christmas and Hanukkah coincided. And I really got to step into a shared celebration of that light, and really got to have a confluence of light. I miss that this year. I've been trying to convince them to change the way the Jewish calendar works. The Jewish calendar, like the Muslim calendar, is a calendar of a lunar calendar. So it's based on the cycles of the loon. And I don't know if I've ever said that before. I know I'm going to say that at the wrong time. So the lunar year is actually 10 and a half days shorter than the solar year. So that's why in the Muslim tradition, the lunar year, it's always a lunar year. It's never corrected. So every year, every Muslim holiday is 10 or 11 days earlier. You know, that's why, like Ramadan, the month of fasting, has been in the longest days of the year now for several years. But and it's difficult. But then, particularly living in Seattle, it's going to be in the winter, you know, where it's a lot easier. The Jewish calendar, and it was kind of solidified in the 9th century, forever, goes usually 3 years. So during those years, the holidays get earlier, earlier, earlier. And then we have a leap year. But rather than adding a day, as we do in the Gregorian calendar, we add a month. And that's why then the holidays get very late, earlier, 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 late, earlier, earlier. But they stay seasonal. So there's always seasonal holidays. You're celebrating harvest times. The problem, you know, was what happens if people have their birthdays in a leap month and it only happens every 4 years? They'd stay very young. So, I mean, it was really kind of brilliant because the last month of the year is called Adar. And so the extra month is called Adar 2. So if you're born in Adar 2 and you're not in a leap year, you celebrate your birthday in Adar 1. There's only one Adar. You know, so that you can be just as old as the rest of us. One of the things that happened to me relatively early in my rabbinic career, I was at a regular congregation, well, regular, I mean, very socially active Reform congregation in Southern California, and I was leading services, leading worship and reading. I was a good reader. And I realized I don't believe any of the stuff I'm reading. And I thought, this is not good to do. I mean, just because you can read convincingly, and I feel that way about Christmas songs, because in my experience, most of the people who sing the Christmas songs don't believe a word of them. But it doesn't matter. And if we could just get that, I mean, if we just get that, be okay. Don't take it so literally. Because that's part of our problem. We take the words literally. And they were never meant to be taken literally. They're story. They're myth. They're meant to communicate something far deeper and far more inclusive than scientific truth. Like go argue that the world really was created in 6 days. That misses the whole point. It misses the whole point. It's like, okay, what was being communicated? What's communicated when you say to a child, once upon a time? And when I read that literature, it's like it follows from once upon a time, a long time ago. And then you go, what is being communicated? Can we remember to step behind this tendency to literalize, to exclusivize? In the 70s, how many of you know Peter, Paul, and Mary? All right. So Peter Yarrow wrote the first real modern Hanukkah song. And at the time this was written, the technical term is it was a mechaya. that means it was really a great blessing. Because those of us growing up in Jewish tradition, there would be Christmas pageants, sing-alongs with these wonderful, beautiful, melodic, fall on your knees. Oh my God. And then they'd do, I have a little dreidel, I made it out of clay. We go, it's just, oh God. And we'd go, really? So when Peter Yarrow did this, it was just wonderful. It's like, okay, bring that tradition into a modern frame that we can sing. And this is really best sung standing. I knew you thought that.
Light one candle for the Maccabee children, thanks their light didn't die. Light one candle for the pain they endured when their right to exist was denied. Light one candle for the terrible sacrifice justice and freedom demand. Light one candle for the wisdom to know that the peacemaker's time is at hand. Don't let the light go out. It lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and our tears. Light one candle for the strength that we need to never become our own foe. Light one candle for those who are suffering a pain they learned so long ago. Light one candle for all we believe in, that anger not tear us apart. And light one candle to bind us together with peace as the song in our heart. Don't let the light go out. It's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and our tears. Let's do it again. Don't let the light go out. It's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out. Let it shine through our love and our tears. Don't let the light go out. Don't let the light go out. Don't let the light go out.
So you might want to take a look at the candles that are burning. And you might want to wonder which flame is yours. Like they don't all burn at the same. Some are taller, some are shorter, some are. Like I wonder if you identify with any of the candles, so that you can use the flame outside to remind you of the flame inside. One way of utilizing the flames as a meditation is to kind of practice seeing it outside and closing your eyes and seeing it inside. And if it's difficult to do, just do that pattern. Repeat that pattern again and again. Look at it outside. And then see it inside. And some people just aren't visual, so maybe you'll feel the warmth of it inside. But an inner representation of an outer flame. an inner representation that reminds us of the light of our being, the light of all being, the light of creation. It's as if one light infused everything that is, so that wherever the conditions are right, that light erupts. Sometimes in quiet and comforting ways to pierce a darkness. Sometimes in harsh, destructive ways, as fires ravage cities and homes. It's all one light. It's all one consciousness. And along with the planet, we are those who create the ground for all the different expressions of that light, for all the expressions of that one consciousness. We practice that consciousness with every action, with every thought, with every feeling. And it's so easy to get caught up in the particular thought, the particular fear, the particular yearning, and forget that it's a specific expression of something far greater. Just as each of us is a particular expression of something that is far greater. And the challenge is to love what is enough so that we're not caught up by it. To open in a deep acceptance of what is. That we are released from its clutches. Consciousness unleashed. To journey into the land of possibility. Consciousness unstuck. To awaken to a sharing of light. Consciousness freed to remember. Allow that light to take shape in whatever ways in your consciousness, whether it's a flame or a fountain of light or a room of light or a ray of light. Breathe that light into every cell and every level of your being. I breathe that light of freed consciousness into every cell and every level of my being. I choose to walk that light into my world. I choose to embrace with that light all that I am in this moment, that I might awaken to new possibilities. I choose to recognize this light in all others I meet. I choose to celebrate this light in every being with whom I share this planet. I choose to remember this light, especially when moments seem most in need of light. I choose to remember I am the light, I am, I am. 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 We are the light, I am, I am. We are the light, I am, I am. We are the light, I am, I am. You are the light, I am, I am. You are the light, I am, I am. You are the light, I am, I am. I am the light, I am, I am. I am the light, I am, I am. I am the light, I am, I am. And you might want to allow your eyes to open gently and see how your candle's doing. The real challenge, of course, is to hold light when what we see seems to be an antithesis of light. And realize that we can hold light without denying what we are seeing and without denying what's happening. But to hold light for what's possible. to hold the light for that which is yearning to be born. Personally, nationally, internationally, cosmically. Because light is a miracle, consciousness is a miracle, and it's possible to transform any celebration of a military victory into a celebration of an inclusive, welcoming, loving, compassionate spirituality. In Jewish tradition, the last miracle that took place doesn't end until the next miracle takes place. Like a miracle is not quite set at a particular time and in a particular place. It's bigger than that. I mean, otherwise it wouldn't be a miracle. So we're still awakening to that light. The hard part is that it's each of our responsibilities. Dang. They didn't take care of it all for us. And we're making it all up too. And the real question is, with how much love are we making up the story? With how much compassion are we making up the story? With how much interconnectedness are we making up the story? Because our stories make a great difference. How are we utilizing our unique individual stories in the service of greater healing and greater wholeness? So I feel sorry for the people who celebrate Christmas. It was so interesting. You know, we got told as little Jewish kids, we get presents for 8 nights. And those poor Christians just get presents one night. Of course, then we kind of woke up to the fact that the presents those guys got in one night clearly overtook the presents we got in 8 nights. I mean, you could just see the enthusiasm with which a Jewish kid would rush downstairs to see what was left where. I'd like every day to be Christmas. You know, this whole notion about deciding when Jesus was born, Christmas wasn't decided until the 4th century. Up until that time, people imagined that Jesus was born either in March or April. Like, think how the world would be different. And for various reasons, December 25th was agreed upon. One of the reasons is that it was already a holiday. Another reason is that it came at the dark time of the year when we really needed light. But if Christmas is a time when Christ is born, I think it's important to know that every day is Christmas. I was doing a program on Christmas at Shivananda Retreat Center. It was one of the harder places to visit. It was in the Bahamas. And I asked people to shout out their birthdays. And I told them that's when Christ was born. because that consciousness is universal. And whenever it gets owned by any particular individual or any particular group, we're all in trouble. And we human beings have been working for thousands of years trying to get that. Christmas is bigger than we think. So please rise. This is actually the number of candles that are to be lit tonight. So tonight is the 7th night, which makes tomorrow the 7th day. And then the final night of Hanukkah is Sunday night, and Monday is the final day. The tradition of lighting on the first night, one light, and on the second, two, and building up, I think encourages us. How many candles do we have to light before we get it? Because when we stop lighting the Chanukiah, then carrying the light is our responsibility. Ruth is holding up the basket to remind me that if people forgot to contribute, your contributions allow us to do this on a monthly basis, and we deeply appreciate your presence and your presence. This day actually started rocky for me because it was just a 6. And it ends with incredible fullness because it was just a 6. Thank you, Nadine. Thank you, Julie. We spent part of the early morning at rehearsal trying to find the file that I never sent. And I was just thinking, we've all got files that we forgot to send. So, like, what's the file you'd like to send? I'm grateful to each and every one of you who's allowed this moment to be. I live with the reality for me that each and every person is responsible for what happens. Could not have had this morning without you. And those individuals who are particularly responsible are those who think they're not. Steve, thank you. To each and every one of you, thank you. Take the light of Hanukkah and the light of Christmas and find out how to more clearly live it into your world. We need your light. Holy One, you whose consciousness illuminates all being, you whose consciousness illuminates the love awakening through each and every creature. Help us open more fully to your presence that we might share it through our thoughts, through our images, through our actions in the world. and help us remember that we are supporting each other on our journey from strength to strength, from love to love, and from life to life. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Happy Hanukkah.